Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. I'm your host, CK. In India, we keep hearing about, a lot of AI being used, at least deployed in the health tech industry. We keep hearing that now you can conduct operations. The doctors can be in some place and the patient can be in some other hospital, and using robotics and AI, the operations can be conducted. We also get a lot of push from the hospital where the physicians are preferring to see the patient through a video chat. And now we are only hearing that the physicians can be replaced by AI bot. That means there will be a AI doctor, and this is a very, very important subject because this is about our future. To discuss this subject, I will be joined by a very interesting, very learned personality from Israel, from Tel Aviv. His name is Benny Rubinstein. He is a Wharton and Howard alumnus, and very learned person. He is actually doing research in the same area. So, without further ado, let's welcome Benny to our show. Hi, Benny.
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, CK.
Great, good to see you, and very thankful to have you on our show. Also, you were able to find time to join us, discuss about this subject. So, what is your opinion? You think physicians can be totally replaced in next decade by AI bot? What is your opinion?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, CK. And I wanted, it's probably a good start for that. I've been on this space for more than a decade on Microsoft research and different places. And the reality is, we don't think AI will actually replace completely doctors. As a matter of fact, they will not replace completely humans. But what we can say is that not just in the future, but today, AI is, for example, allowing doctors who are, maybe medical students or just recently graduated to accomplish things that would probably take them decades of experience to be able to do that. More so, we can do a much better job with better outcomes for our patients, allowing the doctor to actually do what humans are good at, which is having empathy, connect with the patient, make some decisions, well-informed decisions, use their guts feelings. We have intuitions. We have lots of things that machines don't have, and let the machines do what they are better, which is processing tons of data, doing things like medical imaging, predictions, optimization, all the good things that supercomputers and machine learning, deep learning, everything can do, we let the machine do. So it's sort of a co-intelligence situation, right? So everyone does their best, and as a team, human and machines can drive better outcomes for everyone.
So, Benny, we had informed our viewers about you joining us, and there were few questions which were pre-prepared by the audience. So I will actually go to these questions one by one, that it may be very useful for the audience of our channel. So, Benny, the first question is: how do you see AI transforming the current landscape of healthcare, and what are some of the most significant advancements in AI technology that are already making an impact?
Perfect. So, as I said, I think there is a vast amount of fields, some in more advanced stage than others, and some, we foresee in the future, but some are already a reality now. So, for example, if you visit here Sheba Medical Center, one of the most advanced hospitals in the world, there is quite a lot of utilization of, for example, AI-assisted diagnostics, right? So Google recently announced some breakthroughs with DeepMind. So, for example, medical imaging diagnostics is one of those things that, for example, can help in preventing certain diseases. For example, early detection of cancer, ophthalmologic diseases, etc. So that's kind of one of the areas that's not only growing, but we have in both in the academia and in the, let's say, the real life in health centers being utilized. And then there's other things that I think will fundamentally change over time. One very important one, economically and for our great future, in terms of longevity is drug discovery. Drug discovery has been, doing over and over the same things for ages. It's a very costly process, highly inefficient, and we are already seeing AI being utilized for transforming that process. And then last but not least, we can do a lot in terms of predictive analytics for preventative care. So rather than come to the hospital or the doctor when we're sick, it's been a theme for a long time that we should focus on prevention. But with AI, we actually can run a lot of models, analyze a lot of patient data, things that probably a doctor or physician with limited time and access to data would be able to do it, on the spot. And this could help with a lot of the chronic diseases, for example, that take a lot of the budgets for health ministries, like heart diseases, diabetes, and so on. So there's many of that, and last but not least, as you kind of mentioned in the introduction, there's quite a lot of evolution on the field of generative AI, more specifically on chatbots. It's now a new term called agentic AI. So there's quite a lot of things that are still evolving that. I don't think in the near future my doctor will be a bot, but I do see teams of doctors plus AI bots actually achieving better results together as a team versus only humans or only bots.
Well, Benny, during the COVID time, we heard that a lot of research was being, and within few months, because of the AI, the models were tested out, and that is why we had the vaccine in a matter of few months without a trial. So you mentioned things like heart-related issues and diabetes. There is not much activity going on in this arena. I mean, a lot of diabetes patients are waiting for the oral medication, but we only have insulin, which has to be injected intravenously. So, do you think in this area? I mean, this is an extension of the current question. I'm just adding up. Do you think AI will be able to help us specifically in these chronic symptoms of heart diseases and diabetes?
Yeah, there is, as I said, 10 years ago, when as part of Microsoft Research, that was one of our main areas, basically tackling chronic disease management in a more efficient way. This is typically a combination of AI, utilizing cloud and AI, but also utilizing devices. So there's quite a lot of advancement there. The challenge sometimes is regulation, right? A lot of this innovation require some cycles of regulatory matters, which are necessary, but obviously can get in the way of getting them on the hands of patients quickly. But definitely, if you think about it in a more holistic way, we're talking on more personalized treatments, right? There is no way a doctor can really treat us as individuals today, to look at the amount of patients per doctor in most countries in the world. And as you go into rural areas or developing economies, that's even a bigger issue. So definitely we're going to see a lot of evolution by having doctors sort of change roles a little bit, be sort of like supervisors and final decision makers, and great aggregators of information, and of course providing a lot of knowledge to those systems. But we're going to be able to see a lot more activity done remotely versus kind of in the care centers.
Great. I think the future looks very promising, as you're mentioning, and also you're doing a lot of research. So you are the best person to, guide us. Let's move on to the next question, and that is about what are the ethical considerations and challenges that come with integrating AI into medical practices. I think you touched upon this a little bit, but I think this is a time to explore more on this. And continuing, how can we ensure that these technologies are used responsibly? Over to you, Benny.
Yes, very, very important questions. I'll try and be brief. It's a very extensive topic, but I wanted to start with, the half full and half empty glass. There's a lot of people, and they have all valid points, very concerned about issues around data privacy, security, bias in AI, transparency. Those are very important things. Well, I do want to say that as it's coming out of my own research and many other researchers, we don't have 100% of the answers and solutions yet, but there's been a lot of progress. Areas such as explainable AI, for example, which brings more transparency to how AI systems can get to specific recommendations, are still in early days, but are improving. But if I wanted to kind of step back a little bit in terms of the ethical considerations, I would start with a basic one. Despite the phenomenon called anthropomorphism, which is people sort of alluding to AI as almost as a human being, AI systems can't be accountable for anything, right? They are simply a creation of people like you and I. So at the end of the day, physicians, no matter what happens in the future, how much we automate certain things, are the ultimate decision makers. God forbid, in a situation that you go to court, have a liability, have a bad outcome, they are going to be held accountable for. So it's very important that we understand that there are some limitations in terms of using AI as sort of a definitive answer for everything. By the way, we don't even use humans like that, right? It's very common that we go to two doctors to ask an opinion. It's common that doctors ask other doctors their opinion, which is part of my thesis in my research. So why would we use AI as the definitive answer? So those are some considerations that I think people need to put in perspective. There is a lot of issues around bias on the data, for example. Most of the AI systems are trained with data that's skewed, that is, for example, utilizing specific genders or races or ethnicities or whatever the population is. And again, there are also techniques in AI, for example, you work with genetic algorithms, which are able to kind of address those issues. They're able to create an almost perfect training data set, even if you don't have all the data. So for all problems, there are solutions. They are not perfect, but we are also not perfect. So I think that if we keep the momentum going, we'll be able to bring more and more of those innovative ways in a secure, ethical manner, as unbiased as possible, as we are all biased ourselves. So I could go on and on that topic, but I hope that gives you kind of a flavor of that.
In fact, I want to ask you something more. You already mentioned this is a very detailed topic and requires a separate video. Maybe we can come back to the use. But just one query. You see, what happens is when we go to a doctor, we actually look for his credentials. Uh, there is a regulator, his practices and his education and his background is in the preview of the legal system. There is a regulator who says, now this doctor you can approach because he is authorized by me practice and give you medicine. But when it comes to AI, the faith of the people will not be there until unless there is a regulation. So I think this is all related to ethical use. So do you think in near terms, in near future, we may have to start thinking AI as a physical person and may need to modify our legal system, include them into our physical doctor or give them the same right as a physical doctor. Do you think that way human society is going to go, or is it a long way ahead in the future?
No, it's a very good question. Frankly, I follow many top influencers in that space, Dr. Eric Topol, Peter Lee, my former vice president at Microsoft Research. I don't think any of us we all have opinions. We all have some theories. I don't think anyone has a definitive answer. Personally, I would say, never say never. I wouldn't say it's impossible. I think in the short term, it's unlikely that will happen. That said, there's a lot of power and actual real applications these days on robotics with AI, right? So I'll give you an example. There are startups that utilize robots, whether they are, look like humans or look like dogs or pets, who do make companion. They're not physicians, but obviously, but they do companion for elderly population, right? There are robots who are now feeding people with Alzheimer and Parkinson, and people say, well, they should be fed by a caregiver. But sometimes the person is not available. Sometimes there are other limitations, and machines again interact well with people if they are trained properly, and again if there is still a person in the loop. So to make it short, I find it unlikely but not impossible, that scenario. That said, again, I think we need to think about it as a workflow, right? So there's so many touch points between you and your doctor. You usually spend, I don't know in India, but most countries in the world, you're spending like 3 minutes with a doctor, 15 minutes tops, but probably less than that. But there are a lot of things happening in the back end, right? There are systems running. There are lots of different things that are happening in the back end. So if you think about the workflow, we need to inject AI in the specific touch points where physicians still have that human touch with you, but a lot of the decisions and things they need to make could be facilitated through AI, whether it's a robot, whether it's a bot, whether it's a traditional AI machine learning system. This could be expressed in different manners. But again, my personal view, and based on some research as well, is that, I don't know if you experienced that, my father was a physician, and whenever I would see his professor, who was also a physician, come to my home, I immediately felt better. He didn't touch me, he didn't give me any medication, but there is a sort of a connection that also helps. It's not all about medication and stuff like that. So I think what I'm trying to say is we're going to move towards, maybe teams. Some are AI members, some are real people. And as a team, we'll get a lot better results. Doctors will have less burnouts, patients will get better outcomes. Other entities will have better economics. But again, I don't see that as all or nothing scenario. I see that as more of a change in the composition of those teams.
Let me twist the question a little bit, and the answer can be very short for this one. If there are no legal system AI physicians, do you think this will even succeed? So you can give a very short answer.
It's possible, yeah. Again, we are humans, right? I think that if you put into perspective the fact that there's a lot of advances in psychology, neuroscience, etc. The most trained doctor still makes mistakes, right? So when people say, well, what if AI makes a mistake? It's a fair question, but it sort of implies that we don't make mistakes. So there are many studies. Some of them say there are better results with AI than with physicians in certain situations, right? Some people debate that those methodologies were not correct. But the point is, as I said, we're probably going to coexist, but there is no reason why, if I need a very delicate surgery on my knee, there's a company here in Israel called Surgical Theater that can do incredible interventions on children. It's a very difficult process for real doctors to do that. That's why they use the technology. Now, today they use it in combination. It could be that I would trust that technology more than a particular doctor if I can't get access to the best doctor in the world. So I think it all we need to be put in perspective. There's not one answer that answers all, but it's all possible.
Certainly, Benny. So let's move on to the next question. And that, can you share some specific examples of how AI has improved patient outcome or streamlined process in healthcare settings?
Sure. Yeah, I think I alluded to some of them, but if I were to call out maybe two or three, the more important ones at the moment, I just mentioned one. The surgical planning and execution is a very complex process. Orthopedic surgery is complicated, and I got to learn, recently that pediatric orthopedic surgery is even more complicated. So AI is being already used in those planning of the operations. Doctors can actually utilize AI throughout the entire operation. As a matter of fact, I worked with a company, part of Johnson & Johnson, the part of Johnson that takes care of medical devices for the heart. And we use AI combined with some devices to guide doctors in a surgery, very delicate surgery on the heart. So those are things that are happening today. They're not, just futuristic scenarios. The other scenario I think I briefly mentioned is um, improving diagnostic accuracies. For example, radiologists, I don't think they'll disappear, although some of them are threatened, but a lot of the work radiologists do can be improved with AI. So you can process tons of images and identify a lot of patterns and things that would be hard to do with the same accuracy or the same pace. Um, and then last but not least, I think there's a longer topic for that. We won't have time now, but the kind of the precision medicine or personalized medicine, it's mentioned in several of the recent researches. It's something that it's hardly achievable by only by humans, and we'll be able to do a better job when we get those AI tools in the hands of physicians.
Great, Benny. I think we are living through exciting times, and more exciting things are expected to happen in this area. Let's move to the next question, and that is, what role do you think physician will play in future as AI continues to advance, and how the medical professionals prepare for these changes?
Yeah, frankly, I see doctors as well as many other professionals feeling very threatened by AI. I would say that there was I think invented phrase. I think it came from I can't remember exactly where it came from, but it says that physicians won't be replaced by AI, but physicians who embrace AI might replace physicians who don't embrace AI. And that could be said for many other professions, right? So I think that physicians today, they have too much to do, honestly. If you look at statistics, again, I grew up in a house where my father was a pediatrician. I've seen all his friends were physicians, and things are evolving in a pace that there are not enough doctors in most parts of the world to take care of everyone. They have a lot of pressure, and there's quite a lot of burnout. A lot of people are giving up their careers as doctors, which is a shame. So I think that the role of the doctor will become twofold. One, he or she will have to become sort of an AI interpreter, right? As I said, we hope AIs will not just be delivering the healthcare through robots by themselves, maybe one day, but not now. But we hope that doctors will get all the output from those AI systems, and they will be able to make some judgments. They might say, look, this AI model may be great, but it didn't catch this nuance. How do I fine-tune this model now with my own knowledge? So I think that there is a great book called Co-Intelligence by Professor Ethan Mollick from Wharton that talks about this concept. I think doctors will become sort of co-creators with AI. They will utilize AI to basically interpret their data, make better decisions, and basically focus on the patient relationship, which is where systems can't really do such a great job as humans, and hardly there is time for them to do that today. So I think in a nutshell that's what I see. That involves a lot of upskilling or reskilling, right? Doctors know a lot about medicine. They don't necessarily know about data. They don't know about AI. So I think there is a good opportunity here for us to make it a little bit less threatening for physicians. We already have here in Israel many courses for physicians in data science, in innovation, in lots and lots of spaces, right? So giving them the data and AI literacy will give them better tools. They don't need to design those systems. They don't need to become data scientists, but it will help them understand this other world and combine them into their lives in a much more trustworthy manner and more less disruptive, I would say.
So, Benny, we are having a very interesting session, and the last question of the day is, what are your thoughts on the potential risks and limitations of AI in medicine, and how can we mitigate these to ensure that the AI serves as the beneficial tool rather than a stumbling block?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in that question. It's again, the devil is always on the details, right? I think that, as I said before, the AI has not just the potential, but it's already transforming medicine in so many different ways. I think some of the risks are, going to the opposite extreme. This is kind of an over reliance on AI. right? In many industries today, not just in healthcare, in defense, for example, AI can bring a lot of great value. But if you over rely on it, then you could have some really not desirable outcomes. So again, avoiding kind of those black box decision making systems, which I trusted blindly, and ensuring that humans are always, there's a whole field of research on human machine interfacing, right? How do you make AI part of doctors' life as opposed to replacing them is a very important thing. Um, the other thing is, again, medicine, it's a science, but it's also an art, right? There is always this element where, and again, I'm doing that in my research, physicians, they're human beings, right? They know their limitations as well. So how do we utilize the AI the same ways that doctors sometimes need some help from other doctors? How do we know that AI can excel in many things like medical imaging and some of these things we already seen? But how do we make sure that we are aware of the more complex scenarios where there are some nuances that require some judgment that maybe AI are not capable of having today? Those are some things and some reasons why you shouldn't use AI as your exclusive doctor today. Outside of that, there are other risks. I cover some of them in my literature review, which should be published soon, around cybersecurity, right? I mean, both the financial services industry as well as healthcare, they have to deal with a lot of sensitive data, right? You don't want your medical records published everywhere. So how do you prevent, hackers and bad players in cybersecurity space to actually breach those things? It's a very sensitive thing that we need to be aware of. And clearly, there's a lot of risk mitigation strategies. That is no innovation that doesn't introduce any risks. I think the biggest risk is not to innovate because the status quo is not that amazing if you look at outcomes. So, encouraging, independent audits, having clear regulatory frameworks, governance. There's a lot of things that you can do. Again, don't overdo it, otherwise you stifle innovation, but don't neglect them because otherwise, bad things could also happen, right? So I think it's just finding the right balance there, which is not trivial, but necessary.
So, maybe one last question. Very, very sharp answer can be given for this one. Which country in the world today is actually leading the path towards AI usage in health tech? Which is the country which is showing maximum innovation?
So that's a very good question. I don't know that I have one country to name. I would say most of the innovation in that space. I'm severely biased, of course. I'm in a 10 million person country that drives a lot of innovation in the health tech space. I think Israel is definitely one of the top 3 or 5 countries there, certainly. US, still a very strong force. There are some parts of Asia where there is quite a lot of innovation as well. I would say there is some innovation coming from Europe, but at the moment, probably still lagging a little bit.
Great, Benny. I think we had a fantastic discussion today, and I'm so glad that you found time and came to our channel and discussed something about the AI and the health space. We are just touching the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure there are a lot of discussion waiting to happen between us and you. So thank you so much, Benny. And any last thoughts you want to give to our viewers? After that, we can wrap up.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciated the time together. I think we're going to have a series of short discussions on we can deep dive in some of those topics. I think just a couple of words to leave us. One, I think there's arguably very few things in life that are more important than our health. There is a big focus on longevity today, which is again not just taking drugs. It's about having a more balanced life. There's quite a lot of evolutions on neuroscience. So I think that we are about to have a breakthrough. Like this, the status quo is unsustainable. We are not having the best lives that we can have. There is a surge of diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson, and many people, suffering, and those people also require a lot of care and attention. And so there's millions and millions of people just in the US, dealing with those things. Now, there is no cure for those diseases. It's really dragging people. So I think that the combination of AI with drug discovery, as well as a combination with robotics, neuroscience, there's a huge potential. Also, we didn't talk about it today. It could be for another time. Mental health is a big issue. And so there is no shortage of things that humans can use AI to address. And remember, AI can really amplify results, and if you use it properly, it will amplify good outcomes. And if you leave some breaches there, it may amplify bad outcomes, right? So we want to make sure that we don't get paralyzed, don't spend too many years trying to find the perfect regulatory framework, and then it's too late. And at the same time, that we use it responsibly, right? That we actually make small inroads and see some results with some, risk mitigation plans. But again, always finding the right balance between humans and machines, between full regulatory landscape versus chaos. We need to really find that path of the center, which is probably where we're going to get the best results.
Very good, Penny, and it was a pleasure talking to you. And we will circle back again and discuss more interesting things in the area of AI. Thank you so much, Penny.
Thank you so much, CK. Have a great and healthy day.
So, friends, we had a fantastic discussion with an expert who is actually doing research in this area. And, within India itself, India is the IT hub of the world. There are more than 30,000 companies that I have researched are doing AI development in the area of health tech. 30,000 within India, one country itself. So, from the technology perspective, a lot of work is going on in this area. The government and the policy makers must, move quickly as the technology advancements that are happening, and create the regulatory framework, as Benny had mentioned when we were talking to him. And without the regulation, it will be very tough to really realize the benefit of the technology. So with this thought, I would like to end my live stream today. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to send it to us, or if you want to reach out to Benny, you can find his coordinates in the description below, or you can actually write to us. We will make the connection happen. Friends, thank you so much for watching live. See you next time.